Yep, I'm going to hit and record and you're all set.
Okay. I would like to call the meeting of the Bellows Falls Union High School School District School Board meeting to order. Is there any adjustments to the agenda?
I have,
Not. Nothing?
no, I do not, Molly.
I'd like to review and approve board minutes of July 13th and August 3rd that are attached. Can we have a motion to approve, or if anyone has any changes?
Motion to approve, Molly?
Thank you, David.
I'll second, Margot.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the minutes? I hear none. So there's a motion on the floor to approve board minutes for July 13th and August 3rd as written. And I'm gonna have a roll call here. Deborah Wright?
Aye.
Margot?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Priscilla?
Aye.
Steve Fine?
Aye.
Cheryl Charles?
Point of order, Molly. Cheryl's
Yes,
not
sir.
a member of our board.
Okay, I just saw her on my list here.
Just
David
hanging
Clark.
out tonight, just visiting.
David Clark?
Aye.
I think I got them all. Did I get them all, Chris? Oh, I didn't see Colin.
I think you did.
Good, Deb?
All right, yes, I did.
Okay.
Motion passes.
Molly, can we go back a step, please?
Sure.
Because my mic wasn't on. I have an adjustment I want to make to the agenda.
Okay,
There's been a request by WNEA to start the teacher's school year on August 25, to give them an opportunity to get ready for school. Under the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, the start date would normally be September 1. So WNEA has requested that we move it up to to August 25.
so are you trying to, is that on the minutes for the other meetings?
No,
I
I'm
think that's an add
talking
to the
about
agenda.
adjustment to the
Okay.
agenda.
Perfect,
Because I think I'd like to put a motion on that in effect allows that to happen.
okay,
And I'm trying to work out some language, and I got a memorandum of understanding from Norm Bartlett, which somehow or other seems a bit of overkill to me. And I'm trying
Okay.
to work this out, and I'm stuck about the fact that we're going to end up with every board having to make the same agreement for August 25. And I was hoping to avoid that, but maybe we're not going to avoid that.
Well, perhaps we can discuss that when we get to that agenda item. Let's just, can we
Yep.
modify the agenda and then move on perhaps?
okay, so you don't have any problem with the board minutes, so those are approved. We'll go back to adjustments to the agenda, and Mr. Fine would like to add on, well, we don't really have any new business, so let's put it as 5B. We're not gonna have any policies. Well, we do have some policies. 5B, Steve Fine is gonna talk about the WNEA and their start school date.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, communication and public comments.
I don't have anything in the room right now, Molly.
Yeah, I was looking.
I would-
to-
I would like to, if I may, be allowed.
I'm sorry, who's that?
David Mulholland, I'm sorry, Molly.
Go for it.
Okay, thanks. I have a concern about, let's say, recent communication from the governor's office for holding high school sports in the fall here, and the wisdom of doing that. On the one hand, I'm a parent of a recent grad and have utmost respect for a number of people whose faces and names I see before me. And also, therefore, a concern for what the district, the high school, may be engaging if it does consider to go ahead, decide to go ahead with fall sports as planned and as argued for from Montpelier. For those who don't know me, I'm before a life-changing auto accident. I'm medically trained and served as an epidemiologist, medical college faculty in emergency medicine, and a public health official in 3 different states in different capacities here. So I have both hats. And I just want to share some things briefly, and I have all kinds of information that I'd like to pass along and make available of what I've learned so far that I think is helpful in this decision and maybe for others. First of all, medically, a virus started the disease, but humans start and continue a pandemic. What happens with the disease really depends a lot on what we do. Okay. I know it's been put out there that viruses run their course, and that's absolutely true. When they have killed all the susceptible folks in their path, then they start to die off and go away. And that's something we don't want to even approach. I think it's important to note a few things. First of all, NIAID, which is Dr. Fauci's federal group, put together a federal strategic plan for addressing COVID-19. Hasn't got a whole lot of play in the press, but it's out there. And what it says that if everything goes well, this is a 4-year gig dealing with COVID at the very least. Viruses, coronaviruses in particular, typically have an 18-month cycle, about 6 waves. If you can, what they call flatten the first wave and do that soon enough, the rest of them may even be hardly noticeable. And that's not what's going on. So the risk is quite high. A couple other things in this vein, having a vaccine doesn't mean we have the vaccine. We've been down this road as a nation before. For those of us who are old enough, we're given the Salk vaccine for polio. Then a few years later, it was, whoops, you need the Sabin one. More recently, I have gotten a measles vaccine because the ones I had 60 years ago or so weren't that effective. So I think, continued caution is really where we need to be. Viruses are opportunistic agents here. And, finally, the COVID is not the flu in many different ways, and there is no such thing as the flu here. When it comes to sports, many national organizations for scholastic sports have created guidelines in conjunction with medical folks, academic folks, and athletes. And they're quite good, and they're quite robust, and they're available, and they're really quite strict here. And I would hope that the high school and Wyndham Northeast East would consider them seriously, because there's a lot of good minds that have put out their best efforts. Research does tell us that COVID-19 can live on the surface of any ball that's used in sports. And there are only certain types of disinfectants that work to clean them. So I haven't quite figured out how a center in football will will wipe the ball clean and then hike it to the quarterback, who will wipe the ball clean before he hands it to the halfback, who will wipe the ball clean before he throws it to the tight end for a pass over the middle, who will wipe it before he runs for a touchdown, and then the right guard will meet him in the end zone, wipe the ball before he spikes it. It's just not a real practical endeavor to be as safe as needs be to play the game. There are higher risks for those who are minority and obese, and there are studies that are out there in good medical journals that are beginning to show some understanding that there are genetic similarities between the most susceptible to coronavirus and performance athletes where strength is needed here. And then finally, with that train of thought too, please understand that out of shape students are going to need more intensive workout. And if they're exposed to coronavirus, which attacks the respiratory system, which is needed by the cardiovascular system, what has been proven, and there are actual cases, that student athletes may get stroke. And that's certainly worth considering. So one of the issues for sports in the Northeast that other colleges and schools have dealt with, there just isn't at this point time to have longer, less stressful practices to weed out the sick folks and to train safely football players to have a safe football season. That is a consideration rather than having a community event on a Friday night. It's the training time, it's the surfaces of the balls, the equipment, etc. So for sports organizations to date, 46 football conferences around the country have canceled football and or all fall sports, including those who have canceled winter ones too. Places like RPI and Union, who have major Division I hockey teams. The other 19 have changed schedules and limiting and joining the other ones over time to cancel the seasons. And please remember that those folks, many of those colleges are foregoing billions of dollars in TV revenue in the name of keeping their students safe. And that should be rather compelling and a sign of how important and how serious they're taking NCAA guidelines and saying, we can't do this. And so we'd rather keep people safe, and we will forego the money, the billions in TV revenue, and keep our students safe. That's extremely, extremely important. And high school organizations have done the same with high schools. To date, there's been 14 states plus the District of Columbia that have canceled football so far. I haven't seen any evidence of states that have changed their mind and gone to canceling to having it back on. I mean, that's how serious the risks are, because we just, in the medical community, don't have good, solid answers for high schools to say, here's how you are safe. The ways we know that we're safe are just simple things, like wearing masks, social distancing, washing hands, things like that. None of those are conducive to play. So I appreciate your time. I'm available to your group. Feel free to ask any questions now or later, and I've passed along some information, and there's a ton of it. Because I'm affiliated with the American Medical Association, they have a robust body of literature, over 66,000 articles written on COVID so far in the last eight months. So there's a lot of good information here to consider. So thank you for your time and allowing me to share my thoughts.
Thank you, David. Chris, I don't see anything, do you?
No, right now there is nothing in the chat.
We are at policies. Do we have any policies, Chris?
We do not.
So we are going to go to Mr. Fine.
Well, as I said before, WNEA has asked to move the teacher year up to August 25. So give them more time to prepare for whatever it is we need to prepare for. And I had sent.
Can I make a point of order? How are we, this was not on the agenda. So how is this okay for this to be on the agenda now?
So
It was added.
I had asked for it.
Warned on the agenda.
I had asked for it to be added to the agenda.
How is that?
Started the meeting.
How is it, but it wasn't warned on the agenda?
I
Point of
understand.
information. Point of information.
Go ahead, Jack.
Thank you. Colin, I take your point. The only things that, there are things that are legal to add to an agenda and things that are not. Things that are not legal to add to an agenda are items that involve money or items involving binding policy. Neither of these are being discussed at the moment. So the chair has a discretion and the body has the discretion to add items to the agenda even after it's printed. And that's what's taking place right now. Molly has given the go-ahead, and there was sort of an informal sense among the board members, I think, that we did not object to that. So that's why Mr. Fine is speaking.
Okay, I stand corrected.
No problem.
In any event, I had spoken to Chris Pratt about this or communicated with him about it. And he said that the administration really has no objection to starting it on the August 25. I don't have any feedback from the negotiating committee that suggests that anybody is opposed to that. I communicated with Sean Murphy on behalf of WNEA, and I told him that I felt comfortable he could rely upon an email that I sent him that, okay, we'll start the teacher year on August 25, because he had assured me that there would be no change in the year and there would be no new dollars involved in this, okay? Because that was my principal concern, obviously. So in any event, I got this memorandum of agreement or whatever from Norm Bartlett, which is 2 pages and strikes me as a bit of overkill. Plus the fact that if we're going to go that route, and I guess we're going to end up doing something like that, we're going to have to get approval from every one of the constituent boards on this. And I was sort of trying to avoid that, but maybe it's just not avoidable. So in any event, that's sort of the background to this whole situation. And I have a motion that I want to make with respect to this. And the motion is to change the teacher start date for the 2020-2021 school year from September 1, which it would be under the language of the collective bargaining agreement now in effect, to August 25 at the request of WNEA, and with no other changes in any provision of that collective bargaining agreement. That's my motion.
So can we get a second on a motion and then go into discussion? I think we got some questions here.
Could we get a clearer motion before we second that, please? Thank you.
Can we what?
Steve, repeat the motion. What is it? It seems,
Okay, I got it. Move to change the teacher start date for the 2020-2021 school year from September 1, which it would be under the language of the collective bargaining agreement now in effect, to August 25 at the request of WNEA, and with no other changes in any provision of that collective bargaining agreement.
thank you.
I'll second that, Molly. David?
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to move the teacher's contract 2020-2021 year from September 1st to August 25th at the request of the WNEA. It's been seconded. I think there's some questions and
Well,
raise
could
your
I
hand or-
suggest that I would like to hear from Chris Pratt, because this is based largely on communications I've had with him about this matter.
Absolutely. It's your motion. Let's have Mr. Pratt speak first.
Yeah, so as Mr. Fine said, I don't, a lot of emails going back and forth and around, and essentially what the NEA is asking is that once the governor pushed the starting date to September 8th, that means we're going to push, based on the CBA, all the teachers starting a week later as well. Teachers have requested that pretty much they start on the 25th. Originally, before the September 8th was put in by the governor, all teachers are going to be back on the 24th. They're asking if they can still come back on the 25th. No change in salary. Just pretty much, they pretty much asking for permission to show up on the 24th to get started planning for what we're going to be dealing with and giving them that extra time. It's not going to, we don't need to adjust any of our already planned professional development. It's only for those first few days that the teachers are asking. I personally, like I told Mr. Fine, we could all use any additional time that we have. And when a lot of SUs out there where teachers are not wanting to come back, we're having our teachers asking if they could come back to prepare for our kids. So I think it's a reasonable request. There's no new money involved, like Mr. Fine said. And I support, the teachers if they wanted to come back early. And I know we could certainly use that time.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
I have Jack.
Mr. Pratt, just curious, was there any conversation with the AOE on this matter? I mean, there was some speculation in a few blog sites. This was really a means to cut a week's worth of teacher salary given the fiscal situation the state's in. And I don't know if that was just speculation or if there's been any actual discussion about that.
Just speculate.
No, there's been no conversation with the AE because it's directly tied to the local.
It's about pregnancy, it is or it isn't.
Thanks.
Priscilla.
I have a couple questions. Stephen had said that it doesn't impact the teacher's contract at all, but if we're adding five additional days of what is classified as in-service and work time, we're paying, that does change the teacher's contract in that there's 10 days that we have allowed for. Also, the state has not yet determined whether they will cut their student days from 175 to 170. And if we have to do the 175, then this means 5 additional days that we would be paying teachers.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. That's right.
Those are some things that we certainly need to find out. Teachers can come back and work before anyway, and I understand they want to come back and be paid for those days. I would too. When I was a teacher, absolutely. but I think those are considerations we need to find out before.
I think we're talking about
Yeah.
feelings, you know that?
Thanks.
We're talking about feelings.
Anyone who-
Okay, please don't speak over each other.
Can someone please, someone's not muted right now, so it's really difficult to hear. So if everyone could please mute. So just to give some clarification, when the discussion initially started, the NEA teachers aren't looking for any additional money to come back on those days. They want permission to come back for that. And I mean, I would say that I believe Mr. Murphy might be joining us tonight. He could actually clarify to the board exactly what the teachers are looking for and the reason behind wanting to come back early.
He's on the list, so I think he's there.
Yeah, I can speak if you want me to.
Yeah, Sean, I think it might give some clarity to the situation and what we're trying to do here.
Okay. So our understanding of the governor pushing the start date back to the 8th was that it would give teachers, administrators, and districts the time necessary to prepare for whatever the fall looked like. And then it came to our attention that our contract kind of handcuffed on us on that and would make it so that we would have to wait until 5 weekdays before the start date. So if you throw Labor Day in there, that would put us at 4 in-service days to prepare for a totally different type of teaching. And I believe at least one of those days was already booked, if not more. So we have, I think Priscilla just said, 10 built-in in-service days throughout the year. So our hope was to get a jump on preparing, and any days necessary to kind of make up if the governor doesn't forgive the 5 student days, we could kind of pull from in